Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the last episode we finished off case 3. Magnus McGill did look really suspicious, but as it turns out, we were not able to prove with evidence his guilt. And then after the trial, we met a new character. We still don't know her name. She is the inventor, likely, of Herlock Sholmes' devices. And on top of all of that, someone was locked inside the omnibus and lit on fire. We don't know who was in the omnibus. We just know that it wasn't the judge, and it wasn't, Lord Van Zeeks. The Baron Van Zeeks, I think was his first name, the prosecutor. I'm pretty sure. I'm thinking it might have been Mr. McGilded, which means that Zeeks. I don't know. But yeah, we shall see. And in this episode, starting episode 4 of the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, the Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. So let's get into it. Nice little cutscene. It looks like we're going to be investigating more in this one.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case
cutscenes,
than
but
that which we
the
have
Watson
observed.
that I think is on the right there.
Indeed, that there may be another
He
part to the
reminds
story
me-
that we are yet to discover.
He reminds me of
His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup
the
of
guy
herbal
that we
tea,
saw in the cutscene at the end of the last
leading
episode.
him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble
second.
mystery of our invisible killer.
Ah, drink water and it went down the wrong way. So that's interesting. Kind of reminds me of, the one thing that I was thinking when I heard that this was going to take place in London in the early 1900s, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if Jack the Ripper is going to play into this in any way, like a serial killer. Because I don't think we've ever had a serial killer show up in Ace Attorney games, like a straight up serial killer. We've had various other murderers, but not one who's killed a multitude of times in a row. We've had assassins, we've had hitmen. I don't think we've had a serial killer, simply because, well, we get them declared, we get our defendant declared innocent, and we get the correct perpetrator declared guilty at the end of each one. So yeah. So we're back in the Lord Chief Justice's office for this. Let's see. We did obtain the not guilty verdict, like he said we would. So we passed the test, which means that we're qualified to be a lawyer, right? Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruhodo? No, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious, I felt like we were staying in a palace. And with all the gas lights twinkling, it was brighter than day, even in the middle of the night. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Buria, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Except when I learned that we owed £3 for the rooms, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. They didn't have the money for it. Oops. Sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. Wow. Cost of living in Japan is really, really low. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. Ugh, I really am sorry. Yeah, we should have taken those guineas. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodging straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. Ugh, London is a scary place.
Ah, good morning to you at this early hour.
Oh, yes, we are, well, already Ryunosuke is at a loss for words in the presence of this man. Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We have come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Susato-san is amazing. She doesn't bat an eyelid even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart.
Yes, I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices.
Oh, yes! It was very eye-opening. Thank you. And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty to the end.
Yes, I've already been apprised of events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed.
Oh!
No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern land.
Thank you very much. So, I'm a lawyer now.
Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that it won't be a problem.
Another case? Already?
Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I?
It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it.
What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for?
To get him guilty? I guess. I'm not gonna read this, but yeah. Is he dead? I don't know who was in the omnibus. If it wasn't McGilded, then that means that McGilded is highly suspicious for committing a murder in there. So it probably wouldn't have been him who did it. He probably paid the bailiff to do it or some shit like that. I just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. Mr. Naruhodo! It's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth. And then the trial ended.
Well, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer.
Sorry? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart?
Magnus McGilded passed away immediately following the trial.
No! What? Mr. McGilded is dead?
I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk?
Whew. So it was him inside the omnibus. I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead?
After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom.
Yes, of course. That was the scene of the crime in which Mr. McGilded had been accused of.
Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames.
No. How could such a thing have happened?
That is being investigated as we speak, but already the police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of McGilded.
That's awful.
The man must have slipped inside while the bailiff's detention was elsewhere.
The bailiff really needs to pay more attention. And how could that have happened?
That is also being investigated as we speak.
Looking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. I'll do his voice again since he's dead. Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection. Sorry, what inspection? They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself.
An inspection of the omnibus? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage.
So whoever told him that was luring him there. Might have been the bailiff. But then who was Mr. McGilded talking about?
Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. This matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police.
Poor Mr. McGilded. I think it was probably a murderer, so not feeling too bad for him.
So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was wow. Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, Susato-san has such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. She can read our mind, I swear to fuck. It's great.
The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can.
The most advanced in the world, is it? Seems to have some flaws.
It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair.
Simple? That was simple?
As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't lose.
I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but the case was anything but simple. The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe that we managed to get a favorable verdict. Is something funny?
No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent, wouldn't you agree?
Or shady means, which is more likely. And the fact that you thought it would be an easy trial means that you are clearly also suspicious of knowing something about the shady dealings. Well, I don't know about that.
Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much at least is an undeniable truth. Which is precisely why I have prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before.
What's going on? What was he going to say before? Ugh. Suspicious! Charlie Brown is suspicious! Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me it's a murder and the trial starts in 10 minutes.
Don't worry, it's nothing so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assignment. In fact, this case is completely different.
Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind?
That is to say, no one has died, as yet. And the trial will not be today. There is plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise.
Yay! We're getting a full case with an investigation and then the trial! My freaking favorite! So the trial's tomorrow then. Is everything alright? Oh, yes. I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was... well, it's left me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilded's trial. You'll be fine.
Ah, yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense.
Oh,
If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome.
the most terrible end awaits the defendant.
Yes, that's right.
Here we go again.
Your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There is now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until the court sits.
Last time he mentioned 23 hours, he said there was plenty of time.
And one more thing, Mr. Naruhodo. There is something I should like to ask you.
Oh, what's that?
Yesterday, you remarked upon something. That you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would be interested to hear what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds.
Oh, well, Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world worked so he could change ours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And there's another thing. Oh!
Another thing? Continue.
On the way here, on the steamship, he said something to me. There's something very important that I have to do.
There's something very important that I have to do.
Something
Very important? And what exactly would that be?
he never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if he had...
Okay, you're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion.
What did he say? Oh, I suppose he would have done if he'd ever made it to Great Britain. Mr. Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me.
I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand.
Ooh. This guy.
I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case.
Does he have fries in his hand? Or, okay, no, that's not... Maybe? I don't know. I can't tell.
He'll be able to apprise you of the details.
How long has he been there? He's got quite the look.
So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell.
Alright, see you, guilty motherfucker. That we'll probably get rid of at some point in this duology. There's something very important that I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? Probably something to do with the Asogis. I wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we had better talk to the detective, don't you think?
Yes. Yes, yes. That's the voice that Susato has. No, my god.
Yes, you're right. I hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Are those fries? I'm so confused. What are those? Yeah, alright. Yeah, I can only examine, so... Yo, what do you have in your hand there, buddy? Those are chips. What? That's so weird. Could we trouble you?
What do you think?
No, that's not the voice I'm giving him.
What do you think?
Ah! Lovely weather, isn't it?
What's the weather got to do with anything?
Listen to me, you young Japanese upstart. Some frippery about the weather doesn't get every English gent eaten out of your hand, you know. But Susato-san told me it was foolproof.
I'm a busy man, a very busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give you the likes of you a talking to.
Oh, I'm ever so sorry.
You imagine what the other officers there will be saying? Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you?
No, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days.
And all because of some bumpkin who's here on a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters.
There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer.
Eh?
It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant,
Eh?
It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it?
It is unseasonably fine, I grant you. London winters don't see a lot of sunshine.
Unbelievable. How did she pull that off?
So, Lord Strongheart has asked me to fill you in on the case. The name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard.
Gregson? Inspector Gregson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Alright. We'll hear a little bit about him. Inspector, are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? I'm guessing he's from the Sherlock or the Herlock Sholmes novels. Did it again. You're acting like you know this man, Mr. Sato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact. Very well? Yes, he features prominently in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Ranced Magazine? That's right. Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful, friendly rivalry. Really? Really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes? That's incredible.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come up with the goods from time to time.
Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is the pick of a bad lot of all the Scotland Yarders. Those are his own words. That's his highest praise? Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see.
That he is not, and thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London town now.
That's great, isn't it? That's great, isn't it?
I have to admit that to start with, I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof.
Well, that's wonderful.
No, it is not. There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. They're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure.
Rumors? Are you quite sure?
He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. The fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that.
Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you?
Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying, but I know what folk are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying. As sure as eggs is eggs.
I get the feeling this detective can be very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people. Well then. So, about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before.
Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the yard, it couldn't be simpler.
Oh dear, that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right.
A young woman was walking down the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in the hospital, unconscious.
That's despicable. What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind?
I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, wouldn't you?
That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo.
Brace yourself, Ryunosuke. You've angered her now. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest.
So, there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit. Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question?
Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one.
Sorry?
There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now.
Why ever not?
Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Baroque Van Zieks.
No!
Sounds like you heard of him then.
I actually beat him in court. Oh yes, we are very familiar with Lord Van Zieks. Believed to be the harbinger of death itself.
The Reaper of the Bailey.
Oh, we get to talk about him a little. Lord Baroque Van Zieks. I thought it was Baron. I guess I'm wrong. We faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilded told us about him before the trial, didn't he? When Van Zieks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. His Reaper of the Bailey nickname. I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty. Is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zieks, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty.
And what of it?
Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant.
No, you really don't have a clue, do you?
What do you mean?
What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead. Ah! Magnus McGilded came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you?
What are you saying?
Look, if Van Zieks could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles, he works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you.
Are we really supposed to believe that? I think he's being framed, to be honest. I think it's likely he's being framed.
Right, well, I filled you in as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there.
It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? Where the incident took place?
That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself.
You've branded him a criminal already?
He's as good as, shaking like a leaf in his cell he is. I'll give you a chuckle if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way.
Inmate 53. Thank you. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruhodo? To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny. So, if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. I'd like to try, so I think I'm going to make some inquiries Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Yes! Let's go! Oh boy. And we will go to probably the crime scene first and then to the inmate in the next episode. So yeah. Just a little bit over 30 minutes this one. A little bit short, but I feel like this is a good place to stop it after that long conversation we had. So yeah, we will get some details on this case and see what is up in this one in the next episode. Thank you guys very much for watching, and well, you know what, I'm going to pose a question of the day to you guys down in the comments. If you guys watch anime, what have you been watching recently? I've been watching, I watched Vivi, Fluorite's Eyes Son or something like that. It had a really weird name. Just look up Vivi, V-I-V-Y, and you'll find it. I think it might be on Funimation. I also watched Kanata no Astra, which I really, really loved. And I've been watching Attack on Titan, the first 2 seasons I've finished so far. Giving that one a second chance after I dropped it the first time. So yeah, tell me what you guys have been watching, if you do watch anime, in the comments. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys very much for watching.